Hello, everyone, and welcome to an emergency edition of your Daily Detroit. It's Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. I am J.R. Stays and Fletcher Sharp. I know we said we wouldn't be here, but yeah, things happened.
Yeah, I got a lot of needling from friends of mine who listened to the show who were like, you said the Pistons would never get rid of Monty Williams because they don't want to bite the contract. And I'm like, it's $65 million. Well, I was proven wrong.
There are some reports that as soon as the new Guy Langdon came into town, that he was re-interviewing Williams for the job, according to the New York Times. But yeah, I don't think people thought that they would just kind of throw $65 million out the window with this.
I mean, after hearing that he had to re-interview, like he faced a steep challenge then, because unlike a new hire who could just say, "Here's my plan," and you have to convince people. He's like, "Here's my plan," but also we've seen your plan before, and it did not work out at all. So you have not only have to convince me, you have to re-convince Tom Gores that like we want to stick by this, and apparently he did not do well enough of a job to do that, to where Gores felt the need to just eat $65 million. $65 million. If he were a basketball player in this current day and age, his contract would be the fifth most expensive in Detroit Pistons history.
Wow. Yeah, this was some news to see that Monty Williams had been let go by the Pistons. I'm still a little stunned by it, though I think a lot of Pistons fans, at least from the initial reaction as we're recording this, they are happy. People did not like Monty Williams from the beginning. I think he got paid too much too early for people to trust him. And here in Detroit, as we saw with the thing with Jared Goff or anything else, and I'd say that Jared Goff deserves the money a lot more than Williams did. But we're suspicious of people that get paid too much here.
Yeah, it wasn't even, to me, I don't think it was even the paid too much part. It was the fact that, he did well in Phoenix, and I was leaning into the good part, but I did know the bad part was there. He did well coaching in Phoenix, but even still, you had stars like Kevin Durant and, Devin Booker and Chris Paul who were like, yeah, we're not really sad to see this guy go. When you have, the premier players in the sport being like, yeah, we're good with him going somewhere, it kind of doesn't really leave a good mark about you. And then to make matters even worse, as Bomani Jones said on Twitter, it's like he was clashing with the old heads. The young kids really weren't feeling what he was saying. He's probably not going to head coach anywhere ever again. And if he wants to do that, I feel bad for him, but he has 65 million reasons why as to I think he's okay never coaching.
He's set for life.
Head coach. Yeah, I think he's good. If he wants to set up a trust fund or something, he has it well enough to do it. If he wants to just buy a McDouble every day for the rest of his life, I think he probably could.
Not even the college level?
I mean, coaching in the NBA and coaching in college are different, and I feel like the age range he had at the Pistons was about college level, and it wasn't really resonating with the players that much. There have been so many great NBA coaches who struggle at college because it's just different. There have been, John Beilein was great at Michigan. He got to the Cavs. His style of coaching did not translate over at all. As a result, the Cavs were like, let's move you out of here. So it takes a really special type of coach to be able to coach in all three, college, high school, pros, and still be successful. And while I think Monty, if he coached in college, would be able to attract some bigger name players, I don't know if he'd have sustainability in terms of how he coaches.
Now, setting aside the $65 million, do you think this is the right move?
Oh, for sure.
So your thought was because they were going to have to burn the cash that they would just eat it for a while and stay on. You were not on Team Monty.
No, I was hoping he could turn it around. I was hoping that maybe he can implement something new to this system. But the end of the season just kind of really hammered home the fact that while this isn't necessarily a team you built yourself, you've put together this roster in such a way where I think weaponized incompetence is a phrase I've heard that I think fits here, where it's for sure you did not assemble this team. This team does not have the shooters you'd like to have. But the players that do fit the roles you might have, you're not using them in those roles, if at all. You are setting yourself up to fail and then being look, see, I can't do it. If you keep trying to force a square peg in a round hole and it doesn't go in, you can't then say, well, it doesn't fit when the square peg hole is literally right next to the round hole you're forcing yourself into. And it felt like a lot of the time, that's kind of what he was kind of doing with this lineup.
Talk has already moved to who's next. There's a bunch of names in the hopper. What do you feel about the field in general before we get to maybe 2 or 3 of the top names in your mind? I've seen like 6 or 7 names out there already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like it's the strongest or the weakest. It's really a mixed bag. I mean, clearly last year, Tom Gores did not feel great about the coaches that were available to overpay for Monty Williams as a result. And it's kind of the same group of people to a degree. So we'll see. You have some coaches who've, won a championship in some capacity. You have some coaches who are fresh. You have some coaches who are well-traveled. Again, mixed bag.
One of the names that gets shared around a lot is JJ Redick. It's the one that I've been sent the most. He's a popular guy. He's got a podcast. He's been, connected to the Lakers in some ways. What do you think of him? I'll add him first, and then you add whoever you want to add to the pile.
I don't like taking people who've never coached really in any capacity and then making them head coaches in the professional level. It feels very weird to me. JJ Redick, very accomplished basketball player, one of the greatest college basketball players in the history of the NCAA. Whether you liked him or not, you watched him. He was like the original Steph Curry, Caitlin Clark type player who he catches the ball from inside of 30 feet and you're like, he's going to shoot it from anywhere. So really, really talented player. Played in the NBA for a long time. Up until I think 2018, 2019. From 2006 to 2019, he made the playoffs every year. Every team he played for made the playoffs some way. And that's, whether he's contributing or not, that's an amazing feat to have on your CV, especially if you are contributing. Saying all that to say, tremendous player. But like, what do we know about coaching? What types of style does he have? I know he went to Duke, so I know that he's at least pretty smart. He's been a great shooter as a professional, so he knows spacing pretty well. But like, can you take that and coach? There've been plenty of really good players who are like, this guy should coach, and they get to coach, and then you see that they cannot translate their ideas in their head to other players. A great player is Isaiah Thomas, tremendous player for the Pistons, but I do not want him running anything that has to do with basketball at all. No, thank you. So I'm not really sure that that's going to be a great fit. If he wants to go to Los Angeles, that's fine. I really would love to see how LeBron's going to handle that. I do know LeBron was on his podcast recently and was like fawning over him, which fair. But I don't know if he was fawning over him to the point where he's like, I want this guy to be my coach, and then I'm going to overrule. Like, I don't know about that. I think if he were to go to a team, I think the Pistons would be a safe spot because, again, the expectations are not very high. They had the worst record last year, so as long as you do better than that, and at least give him some hope of playing, for sure. But I'm not sure about that. I think the Pistons might make a bit of a better choice than that. I will say this though: Trajan Langdon did go to Duke. JJ Redick went to Duke. Duke players tend to stick together, so who knows? But I have heard that he has been favoring towards Los Angeles.
What are a couple other names that you've got?
I mean, of the names that I know of off the top, James Borrego seems like a pretty good choice. Currently, he is with the Pelicans. He's won 2 NBA championships as an assistant coach in 2005 and in 2007 with the Spurs. So he's with Greg Popovich, so he knows how to run a team properly. He's been an assistant most of his career. He had a few games as an interim head coach with the Magic, which in 2015, you really can't do much with that. He knows how to help develop people. Like, I know he had a hand in some of the Spurs younger players they have. With the Pelicans, they had a bunch of young players who are trying to turn into like pros, doing a pretty good job. I mean, Zion is still, you're waiting to see that, but they have some players who are a little bit less heralded who they've kind of churned out and done well with. So having a coach who has a good idea at that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then we have Kenny Atkinson, who he coached the Nets when they started trying to make their own big three, which really isn't on him. Didn't do necessarily terrible. He spent the last few years with the Golden State Warriors as an assistant and learning how to use that offense. Got an NBA championship out of that as a result. I think he's more well known. I didn't really like him as a coach of the Nets, but he's a name that like commands some respect in that regard. If I had to choose though, I'd prefer Borrego, but I do know that Borrego is like a coach that everyone is looking for sure.
Now, do all of these moves change how you feel about Tom Gores and the organization? I do feel like, hey, he did make a pretty big mistake with Monty Williams, but he was willing to eat the dollars on it. And I do not like how some of the things have been with delivery with this organization, but it seems like they've, at least from the outside, by making some moves, maybe have woken up a little bit.
It makes me feel a bit more odd about Tom Gores that you would make such a huge contract that's like the largest in history, really fiscally irresponsible. Again, not my money. But to make a contract this large and then after a year that I think he probably was thinking about trying to keep him around, get pressured into not bringing him back. It feels like he has an idea of what he's doing, but he's not all the way sure. Like it's like you see that meme where it's like, first step, take my product. Second step, question mark. Third step, profit. Like I feel like that's his mindset with the Pistons. He's like, I'm going to get a coach. And then something's going to happen. And then championship. And it's like, that's not how you run a team. Like you need to have an actual fleshed out plan. And it feels like his plan isn't really all the way fleshed out yet. Here's to hoping whoever he hires has a plan that like resonates with Langdon and also resonates with him as well. Because Detroit deserves to have a good basketball team. If you're not gonna give us back the shock, like at least give us something that can make people who enjoy basketball in this city proud to want to go and watch it. Because like they had so much hope last year, and it was even the year before, and it gets sucked out of the building so quickly to where like it goes back to being a punchline. Like when you know it's bad when during the season the Pistons Twitter and social media accounts are posting out like the going to work Pistons winning a championship. It's like, yeah, you still have games to play. What are you doing posting Ben Wallace highlights? Like don't do that. Come on, man. Like let's make them not do that until the season is very much over. So whoever they have coming up next, I hope they understand that they have a project on their hands, but a project they can get their hands fully into and manipulate the way they need to see fit. And hopefully they can get them some wins. Maybe not even make the playoffs, but like let's make some noise at least with the Pistons, because this ain't it.
Obviously, coach is next, but what is the one more thing that you want to add by the next season?
They needed some consistent shooting. That's really it. This team has a bunch of talented slashers, talented people who can be on the ball, but like they don't really have anyone who can just stand in the corner, catch and shoot. They have someone like Marcus Sasser, who's a tremendous scorer and shooter, but he needs the ball at his hands to do that. And the problem is you have Cade Cunningham, whose team this is, and you have Jaden Ivey, who's supposed to be his second in command, who's not a gifted shooter yet. He's a gifted scorer, but he needs to go to the hoop to score. You can't have Marcus Sasser out there with him because he's a rhythm shooter. He needs the ball in his hands to shoot. And if you're going to put him in a corner and shoot, he might have a game where he hits 7 in a row. He might have a game where he misses like 12. And like that's too inconsistent. So to get someone who can just kind of be there, kind of float around, make themselves available, someone like JJ Redick when he played basketball, not when he was coaching, who can just operate in space, find some time to pop open and get a shot off, and allow Cade to have much more room to get to the paint and create. Because without that room in the paint to create, like you take away one of the avenues of his game, and then the rest of the team just kind of shuts down as a result.
Well, I'm really glad to talk Pistons. This has been kind of a big day for the club. One thing before we go, I just want to mention in the other files for sports, Pumas, Mexico City, coming to town this Saturday, 7 p.m. at Keyworth. People love international friendlies. I know it's a bit of a gear change from basketball to soccer, but this is going to be a fun one. We're going to be able to see some talented people.
Yeah, Club Universidad Nacional, or more known as Pumas, UNAM. They are one of the 4 largest clubs in Mexico, Cuatros Grandes, with Cruz Azul, Guadalajara, and Club America. Like, where Pumas goes, people will follow. So whatever the capacity is for Keyworth, I would be surprised if they don't hit it. If you don't see people like around the gate trying to peer around to see just a glimpse of Pumas, because they're I guess a good comparison would be like a better version of the Dallas Cowboys. Where they go, people follow for sure.
And I want to mention that this game will not be televised.
That's extra incentive to go watch, which should be an exciting game with really nothing on the line for either team. So you can expect them to go out there and just have some fun, which I'm sure the fans will love to see.
The Mexican community in Detroit really loves their soccer, man. I know you see stuff out there, and it's really great. Like, it's a real fun brand of soccer.
Yeah, there was a team in the DCFL who, for a season, their away kit was one of Pumas' kits. So like, people really love Pumas, and I'm not saying that like, oh, a potato. No, like, people really love Pumas. Like, I would be surprised if you're not looking at both sides of the stands and not seeing Mexican national team jerseys or Pumas kits or other Liga MX jerseys. People love to watch Pumas, whether they love to watch them do well or watch them lose. Like, it should be an exciting game nonetheless.
For sure. And I think we will see everybody at Keyworth on Saturday, 7 p.m. Fletcher Sharp, always good to talk to you. Thanks for catching us all up on the Pistons. It was something where it's like, that was unexpected. And also, I didn't know where we were going to fit this news in the rest of our schedule. So, well, emergency pod it is.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm glad to, be of some assistance, especially when it comes to walking back my words from earlier this year.
We still love you, Fletcher Sharp. With that, I am Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. As always, feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Let us know. A reminder that our Patreon-only Discord is coming together. That's going to be launched later this week. I'm pretty excited about that. As always, remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow. Take care.